Welcome back for the third season of the DDI Podcast, where our mission is simple. We're here to demystify the misconceptions surrounding the digital infrastructure sector. I'm Mark Yields, the Vice President for Schneider Electric's Secure Power Division here in the UK and Ireland. And for this episode, I'm delighted to welcome Osama Bakhet, VP Global Utilities at Yondr Group, to the show. So welcome, Osama, to the DDI Podcast.
Thank you, and thanks for the invite, Mark.
Super welcome. So let's get straight into this. So, of course, the first thing I really like to find out about our guests who come and share their experiences with us on the show is to find out, how did things start for you? How have you landed in this industry?
Interesting enough, I landed 2007 when I started my career in this industry, but indirectly first. So I was part of the infrastructure projects that relates to power. I was delivering indirectly in power infrastructure, and indirectly I was actually enabling DC development in different countries around the world. And during that revolution, which I noticed while I was delivering this infrastructure, I said like, wow, what's happening? Where does the data go? Where was my phone data? Where is all my personal data that I've been dealing with? I just wanted to know, where is it saved initially? And then I noticed that, there's something called data centers, there's something called cloud, there's something called a warehouse, which is that the data center looks like usually. But this is where I said, okay, I want to be part of that revolution, and I want to unlock it and be remembered, really. And this is how I started. It all started 2007 indirectly, and directly I started to be with the client side, DC developer directly, in 2019. And till now, still part of it and enjoying, really.
Great. And we were just talking off air there, weren't we, about being the change that you want to see. How has that been? Are you seeing, the industry change over a period?
Yes, massive change. So I think what I noticed in the industry, obviously there is the agenda behind the DC industry is using all the power in every country that they go to or every market. But the biggest change is that they're not using it in silo now. They're using it with solutions, whether it's a solution to offset the usage of the power by enabling renewable projects that benefit the country they're in and the grid on a global scale, or even offsetting the actual using itself, which by energy efficiency measures or even usages of water, like not actually doing any stress on the infrastructure of the country or the market we're in. And I think this is the biggest evolving part.
Well, I think this is a really interesting point for us to start on, actually, because it leads nicely on to, when I think about the data center industry more broadly, I look at it and think, well, how are we going to build at such a rapid rate? We've got the dawn of AI landing on us. We've got, the need and hunger for data is growing across the world, but we actually can't do or build this infrastructure without people.
Correct.
People are reasonably important in this industry. So is there a better job we can do at a kind of, one, introducing the data center market to the globe, and then two, I guess, an important byproduct of that when we think about talent. How do we attract that early talent as well into our sector?
I think the starting point for this industry, which already a lot of initiatives in the market that promote that, is actually going to the young generation and ask them, instead of telling them what the DC industry is actually ask them, what do you know about data? Because what I noticed, they have a lot of awareness. The young generation got a lot of awareness about environment and what we're facing as climate changes and how this is influencing even the weather every day now. But they don't really know how their day-to-day life, when they're dealing with data, you can see social media, they see AI, they see softwares, but they haven't learned enough about the infrastructure behind what they do on day-to-day. That's what will influence their decision to make a contribution to this industry. And not just a contribution, they could be part of it, of that change. Like at the moment, I can see there's lots of initiatives, as I mentioned, about offsetting efficiency, PPAs, all these good initiatives. It's helping. However, the key part is for people to continue that. But without educating the young, similar to what they are educated about the environment, we need to educate about the data. Where is it saved? How is it analyzed? And I think that would be the starting point to continue that journey, and it's never going to stop. And that what will enable the growth of the whole industry to support AI, which initially was supporting cloud, now it's AI, and who knows what's the next revolution. You can see the tech industry is a non-stop environment, right? It's continuously growing and evolving with new platforms and new technology. So
I want to pick up on something that you said, and I've just it really gauged my interest, because I think you flipped the coin there about, well, because I asked you, well, what can we do better? What can we do different? And what you said to me was, well, maybe we should just ask.
yes,
I wonder if you'd expand on that. What does that look like in practical terms?
I think because I've been involved with people who shifted from various industry into the DC industry,
Sure.
And what I've seen is what actually motivated them is to clear their understanding. So I always realized that people are asking individuals, we are the DC industry, we're doing this, we're serving IT, we're serving AI, but really, like, the person in front of us is not worried about what we do anymore. He's actually, we need to understand, what does he understand about the industry first? And I think that would be the starting point, because there's a lot of misconception and like false information really about what we do in this industry. So the starting point is to get that, to know the people, know what they are thinking of, how do they see this industry evolving. If they're holding their phone, they need to understand, like, what does it mean for power usage when they're just going through social media. Like, what does it mean when they are uploading photos and they don't understand it? But when you ask them how they understand it, that will build a platform on how they can contribute, not to eliminate their usage in their daily life, but really to contribute in using it effectively, making sure the environment is considered in a very simple way. It's like recycling, really. It's like, if you, in a very simple way, people used to have one bin for everything. Now we know we have new generation got awareness of recycling. Same way, but just in a very simple way from a tech industry. It's not just the software that people are using in the tech industry. People see the softwares, but they don't see what's behind. But we need to ask them, what do you know about what's behind these softwares? And that's the starting point.
You also made a very interesting point there around, because I think what we're alluding to here is, how do we educate?
Correct.
So understand what the baseline is of understanding, and then how do we educate from there on? I just want to pick you up on that point, because, you know, we know we've had this discussion before, but I came from an apprenticeship a few years back now, to be fair, but I came from an apprenticeship, and I think that we share the same values around education and learning. What, if anything, needs to either change, or what do we need to adapt to bring forward the pace of which people start to learn about the data center industry?
I think the best way is to go down the line to the primary school, from the day one of a child started to be at a school level. They need to have in their own curriculum. Maybe it's not going to be in the curriculum itself, but there have to be an engagement from developers and the industry influencers to promote the DC, not as enable their development, but to promote it in essence, to teach them what does electricity mean, like the basics of the science, really, the basics of science, and then how that basics integrate with their daily life, whether their own toys, whether their own Alexa, just speaking about music, or asking for like anything at home when they find it's very easy reachable as a data source. If we tell them how science integrate with their day usage of data, as you can see, you will find that it will be automatically in their mind, oh, I need to be part of this industry. I can see it's interesting. I could actually enhance the DC infrastructure, not from a software level, from fiber level, from connectivity, or from a power infrastructure. You could find innovation comes from this generation, from early doors, and maybe that will come with even additional projects. You don't know what children can do. They come with a lot of way of thinking that evolves over time that we've never thought of. You could find somebody's inventing something that really makes DC industry using power per minimum, and nobody even have ever imagined that. But they could come with solutions based on their interest, because they don't have any constraint. That's the beauty of the young age. From primary to secondary, they don't have any constraint. And then their education, I would say, at a higher level for their degrees, it depends what they want to do afterwards. Like if they're universities, apprenticeship, this is where we have already had the seed in their mind about the infrastructure. And you just have to wait for it and see how will that flourish. But at least they are aware of it. And the same for their awareness of environment. It's now clear that all schools now are around the world, really. If you ask any child in primary education, do you know about the environment? They know about space. They know about climate change. They know. Again, it's anything that harm the environment, and they need solutions. but I think they don't need to ask for solutions anymore. I can see we are able to influence them to be part of creating the right solution, not just asking for us to provide the solution. Because whatever we deliver now for this generation, and especially to support the DC infrastructure, it's not going to stay for me, you. We are already, like, we may see the growth of that as we grow, but it's left now for them to make that grow efficiently. In a similar way, power was generated in the first days with non-clean, no renewables, but now it's the young generations at the time of the power generation age who started to do the R&D and influence that one, creating solutions that allowed this industry to be clean and having renewable sources and no constraints on the world we're living in. And that's exactly what would need to happen for the DC industry. They need to start, when the kids are taught at school, they will come with innovation solution automatically that allows them to see this industry footprint is clean, measurable, no constraint for the environment. And I always say, as humans, we are the most dangerous creatures because we are the one who do the innovation every day.
I think there's a great point in there somewhere that says the diversity of thinking that our next generation of engineers or marketeers or salespeople or finance people, these are the people that can make the change and really kind of give us some exponential growth in thinking, in dynamism, in different ways, thinking about different ways of solving the same solutions that maybe you and I have been looking at for the last 10 to 20 years. So I really like that dynamic. Something I did want to kind of like think about, and you and I have probably got a similar feel for this, that my background is very much not in data centers. So my background is in robotics and software and automation. There is probably some merit in saying, actually, moving across from a different sector or a different industry can also bring a different perspective to some of the challenges that exist in this arena already. Is that something that you subscribe to? And what would you see as maybe the benefits if somebody did move across?
The benefit is the different eye, different visuals, different angle, different way of solving problems. That's the key benefit. And that's what I always say, like somebody's coming now into this industry, he or she's thinking outside the box. You probably have felt that, Mark, when you joined the industry. You probably faced similar problems at your previous roles, and you've seen, oh, this could be solved in a different way. Why these guys are doing it? Like, you find solutions that has never been exposed to this industry, but it could be inherited in the industry. And I think that's really what I found the benefit of moving from one industry to another. As a simple aerospace industry, as an example, quality, like unlearning, that probably everybody learned from this industry every day. Like, we fly every day, but we underestimate the quality of the plane that we're on. How can it be that efficient? And exactly the same way will be inherited into the DC industry, and it will allow people from different backgrounds will create this culture that not just innovation is implemented, but learning milestones are captured and not repeated, because human being by nature repeat mistakes. Aerospace succeeded in not having mistakes repeated. They acknowledge that mistakes can happen, but I've never seen in the aerospace, for example, mistakes being repeated. And that's what probably the DC industry needs to be at that level. But we are evolving, especially that if you can see the DC market in general, if you look at like the age of a cloud infrastructure around the world, it didn't even pass the 20 years. So we are actually living a revolution, but we just need to catch up, really. That's where I think that we are in a fast-paced environment, and we just need to catch up in a way that allows us to take a breath and say, okay, we have learned this. What can we do to not to repeat that mistake and keep that learning in records, really? And I found a lot of initiatives happening around the world with different committees, different institutes in the DC industry is really, really helping. And being part of it as that clear to all of us, really, that, and Schneider also is part of it. From my engagement with Schneider on different projects, it's just a matter of keeping that momentum. We don't want to lose that momentum and capture the learnings, really.
Yeah, I mean, and the great example actually from the aerospace industry, because that's a continual closed loop of double check, triple check, quadruple check.
Exactly.
Are we doing the right things for the right reasons, both in safety, both in efficiency? So that's a very good example, and we'd be the same in our industry now, right? So I think that there's a couple of great examples there. One thing that I'm learning every day, and I bring this across from maybe my previous roles as well, the importance of the ecosystem and the network. Yeah. Now, I try and build as strong a network as I can because, going back to my earlier point, I am learning every day because, one, I'm new to the sector, number one, and number two, it's changing at such a rapid rate, and the key decision makers in our industry are, they are leading in terms of tech, in terms of implementation, the pace at which we're moving. But the one thing that struck me is the power of when we come together to try and solve some of these, really important topics. Is this something you subscribe to, and you think the ecosystem is quite powerful in terms of solving some of these challenges?
It's really powerful, really, really powerful, because as you can see, tech industries and all the supply chain behind every tech company, it's massive. From not just from a workforce as individuals, but as an investment and added value to the economy, to the market that they access. So I found the problem of one company is the problem of the rest. Maybe they are the first to access this market, but if this is not solved now, it will stay forever. Like, the economy of this market will slow down, the growth of the industry will slow down. So really, this is the beauty of this industry. The problem of one company is the problem of the rest of the supply chain, because we're all serving few big firms. What I would say on that element specific comes to the same point, is the learning milestones. So we are unlocking a constraints, unlocking a regulation, unlocking a requirement, or even public awareness is maybe in a certain market is weak. It's keeping that awareness, tracking it, learning more, adding more to it. And I think that's what's going to allow the businesses to grow, and not just from developing a data center, but from an infrastructure, supply chain. They will just evolve with all of this. This is how things will evolve. I think that's describing it, my connection. And the leaders who influence the decision making, if I say, are they taking the decision on their own? I would say no. They always communicate their decisions with their supply chain, because the leader or the tech company who own the data center, for example, and they are using it for their own platforms, they cannot live without their supply chain. So they have to unlock the constraints that allow their supply chain to deliver and keep the site operating and keep people downstream, which is the end user, happy, which working backward really from customer obsession really.
I like that. So that's a reverse chain almost, back from the user way back through to the supply chain. One thing we haven't touched on actually, as we've been talking, is probably the technology, because it plays an important role.
Sure.
What have you seen in your time in this sector? And what, if there are a couple of moments where you felt, well, actually, that technology has really helped solve an issue. What's your kind of, I don't know, one or two major moments? Or
Sure. Ironically, you'll find this really simple. Data gathering and analysis. We've always captured meter readings throughout our life in this industry, and especially for power. But if you asked, have you ever analyzed and did an analysis of this readings throughout the lifetime of the site, and how it integrates with a certain trend, or how can it create a specific, based on this reading, we could improve in something. And I found this is really interesting, which is a smart meter. And Schneider is actually a lead on that when we looked at the tracking usages of power or water. And they come back from the analysis with solutions, not just, we analyzed and you are using high. Yeah, but we could analyze the trend so we could improve. That one element is very critical for PUE and the water usage as well, effectiveness. I also noticed the other simple piece, which it's really simple, is the supply market. From a power perspective, like energy procurement, people underestimate the actual bill that a site need to pay sometimes to keep it operation. What I realized is not just the bill, it's now the actual corporate procurement for renewable. So that mechanism is probably it's very well structured, especially in developed countries. You'll find that was actually done to actually make sure that all developers have tools to offset their existing site usage, because the actual reality, you can't always have a renewable technology on your site. But if you are enabling a renewable project that will feed the grid and making sure that the origin of the power that you're using comes from that not only will help you with offsetting your footprint, but also help the economy and help actually your DC build itself being clean. And this is where I can see, technologies are actually, in a very simple way, just mechanism for guarantee of origins, renewable energy certificates, and so on. But these are simple solutions. People call it tech solutions, but really they're very simple. But it helped. It helped the growth of the industry.
I think you touched on something really important there, which is industries, not just ours, but industries generally have lots of data.
Correct.
Too much data, arguably. The trick is, how do you turn data into intelligence? How do you turn intelligence into actionable decisions? And I think we see more and more across the sectors kind of really scaling back on what data is actually needed, which is important. But I think I would agree with you, of course, coming from Schneider Electric, your baseline is the most important line you can get. So start from the baseline and work up. And fascinating stories about sustainability and how do you drive more effectiveness in DCs as well. A very interesting conversation this, but I always have to ask this question right at the end, which is, what's the one thing you want to leave our listeners with when you think about data centers and maybe the next 5 or 10 years? What's your kind of passing thoughts or comments?
Learn and be curious, because that's what will open room for innovative solutions to be implemented. Don't close ourselves to one industry. What we've learned, if you are engaging with vendors in the market, try to open your circle to be with people from different markets, because it really helps. It really helps. It's what will enable, you could find an innovative solution that's being implemented in a different industry, but because you open your eyes and you're curious and you want to learn about what's happening in the world, not just in the DC industry, this is where all the sustainability initiative, environment, even young generation will see the effect of their effort to the world really, and that we're living in.
It's a fascinating point to finish on, right? Because we've spoken about talent, attraction of talent, haven't we? We've spoken a little bit about tech, and you finish us on the classic, just be curious.
Be curious.
So let's leave it there. I really appreciate you taking the time out today to come and see us and join me on the show. So thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you. Always a pleasure. Thank you.